from a few videos I've seen online, which may not be at the beginning of the post game, but some way through it. But around the 40s is where you want to be when starting post game, and I looked up a grinding method that involves going into Hydro, or the Makahita Dojo Team Hydro thing. But that means you have to fight Blastoise, Feraligatr, and Swampert. And my team, this is my personal game that I'm talking about, but I don't have any recruits on my team that are worth anything. I only have what started as a Cyndaquil, and my partner was a Mudkip, so yeah, I don't really have much of a fighting chance against that. And I tried leveling up in some other place, and it just took forever. And I thought, you know what, forget it. I can't be bothered. Though seeing some videos online recently on recruiting a Kecleon and stuff like that have sort of piqued my interest a bit more in trying to get into the post game of this game. Although Mystery Dungeon 2's post game, I mentioned earlier, I can't be asked to even try because of my inventory, mess of an inventory that I can't be bothered to sort out. So, well, we're almost at the end of Uproar Forest here. We've just got to head to. I mean, I got to find the chestnut on the next floor yet. But yeah, if you got a grass type and you want to raise its IQ, you come here because there's plenty of green gummies all over the place. This is really the grass type dungeon. Actually, a little bit about my Mystery Dungeon 2 playthrough. I ended up as a Piplup, which surprised me, but I'll gladly take it. I really like Piplup. Yeah, Piplup's probably my favourite Gen 4 starter. And I thought, well, I have Sky, so I should probably take advantage of that. I should probably choose one of the exclusive starters to Sky as my partner. So I was debating between, would I like Phanpy or... I was thinking between Phanpy, Shinx, or Eevee. Phanpy because I thought, who's going to use Phanpy, right? Phanpy wouldn't exactly be the most popular choice. Not because it's Phanpy, but because there's just more interesting choices, I'd assume, from most people. But then I thought about, oh, okay, there's a chestnut. So make sure you grab that. Don't worry about peeling it. You can if you want, I guess, but just hold on to it. Yeah, I thought about, because I was assuming the difficulty and the type advantages of the game off of this game, which I know really isn't what you should do, but just in case, you know. So I thought, oh god, well, I don't exactly want a ground type if there's going to be a ton of flying types like there are in this game. So I thought, sorry, no Phanpy. And then I thought, oh yeah, we have to fight these Mankeys, by the way, but they're piss easy, don't even worry about it. Then I thought, okay, well, what about Eevee? I was really debating between Eevee and Shinx. And Eevee, I was thinking, yeah, how many other people picked Eevee? Because that's just a personal thing I have where I tend to avoid what other people do, and I tend to go my own way. Do what's not popular. It's not exactly a trait that's unique to me, but always holds true. After all, I did have a Mudkip as my partner in my personal file of this game recently, and I was a Mudkip years and years ago. But yeah, eventually I settled on Shinx because I assume when people were much younger and they were only kids and they were playing Mystery Dungeon or Explorers of Sky, they would go, "Yeah, I want to be Shinx. Shinx is cool," and Shinx is cool. I love Shinx. But I assumed Eevee would be more popular because Eevee can evolve into all sorts of different things, right? So I went with Shinx, and I didn't regret it. Because it learning Discharge was amazing in a monster house later on in the game. So these Mankeys aren't going to attack us because we have a chestnut. And they love chestnuts. So we get to bargain with them. Yeah, I had a Piplup and a Shinx, and had a pretty comfortable playthrough. Although, Jesus, I don't remember missing so often in that game. You miss so many attacks in a row, it's ridiculous. Just the hit ratios and everything is super low. And I remember you do miss quite a bit in this game as well, but Jesus, Mystery Dungeon 2 is way worse than that. And I felt like monster houses were a lot more prevalent. But to circumvent that, that's what the millions of different types of orbs were for, like the Spurn Orb, Totter Orb, the Pure Seed, all sorts of stuff like that. Which this game does have, they're just much more difficult to come across. I actually found Mystery Dungeon 2 much easier than this game. It still wasn't an absolute cakewalk. I still paid attention and watched myself. Especially in the last dungeon and boss fight. But all in all, I remember the game being so much harder. Way, well, maybe not that many ways, but much harder than I found it recently. So, I don't know what's up with that. But, there you go. Anyway, Caterpie's here for some reason. So, yeah, in exchange for a peeled chestnut, the Mankey have decided to help build us a better base. Construction work began on the new Slippy Nips base. With our face on it. Pretty nice. Imagine living in a house that's designed in the shape of your head. How narcissistic can you be? That would that'd be pretty funny though. I would like that. But it's not done yet. And surprise, surprise, the Mankey aren't gonna keep working on it unless we get them more chestnuts. That's what this cutscene amounts to. Bring them 2 more chestnuts and you will finish the new rescue base. That's all it is though. That's the only reason why you'd want to do this little side quest, is if you want a visually different base. And I'm pretty damn sure there's no other reward that comes from it. Maybe you can recruit maybe you can recruit a Mankey or something after this side quest, but we were already fighting Mankeys in that dungeon regularly, so I'm sure you could recruit them there. Actually, that's another thing, because while I was looking for my copy of Explorers of the Sky, I found it alongside my copy of Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almia. So that's what I want to talk about. It's the Pokemon Ranger games. I remember even less about that game than I did about Explorers of the Sky. Granted, that's because most of my memories of Explorers of the Sky in recent years has been because of people praising it on the internet. And in those, when watching or reading about it, I would go, yeah, I remember it being really good. That's about it though. But the Ranger games, I never even played 1 or 3. What was the first one was just called Ranger, and the third one was called Guardian Signs, I believe. So 1 I had, I think the way it was is that in my copy of this game, Mystery Dungeon 1, there was a little sleeve, or like a little brochure sort of thing. They had those all the time. That came with the box, because I still have the box with me. And it would display games that were new at the time. So I would get, there was an ad for Blue Rescue Team, out now. What else was there? There was an ad for, what was new in 2006? Oh, they were promoting the last few GameCube games. I think there was one for Twilight Princess. I think this is just, I could go get it, but it's a few feet away and I'm too scared to take off this headset because it's very finicky. And plus I'm doing a recording session here. But anyway, it also had an ad for Pokemon Ranger on the DS. And I saw that and I went, whoa, the sprite work looks cool, and I always like the concept of Pokemon Rangers. Especially because I'd recently seen the movie about it, Pokemon Ranger, the Guardian of the Sea with Manaphy, whatever it's called. And I liked it. And I thought they were pretty cool Beyblade guys, so I thought, hey, that's pretty neat. And then, like a year, whenever Shadows of Elmia came out, about a year after it came out, I found it and I bought it, and I remember enjoying it. That's it, really. I remember the things, okay, I can probably, okay, well, before I get into that, back to more missions here, and this is the map theme from the licensed Waterworld game on the SNES. The movie Waterworld, so this game's soundtrack is fantastic because it's exactly what I was talking about with the super ambient synthy sort of 90s music that I was talking about that I love so much and feel super nostalgic for. This game's soundtrack is exactly that. So Waterworld's on the SNES. I heard the game's terrible, but the music is fantastic. Is that a running theme with all the music that I've picked for this? Seems to be. Don't quote me on that because some of the games that are featured later on are really good. As I was saying, I can list on one hand the amount of things that I remember from Pokemon Ranger, Pokemon Ranger, Shadows, was it called? Yeah, Shadows of Elmia. I can barely remember the title. I remember the sprite work and animation being amazing. I remember the gameplay and scratching up the DS, the bottom screen, because I remember twirling it over and over. Number 3, I remember the long-ass tutorial. I don't remember anything about it, I just remember it being long. I remember the last boss. I remember the final boss, Darkrai, and I remember it being pretty difficult. And that's it. That's all I remember about the game. That's all I remember, which is crazy to me, because I remember it being really good. I remember really liking it. Because that was definitely during the era of, I was going to say Pokemon spin-offs, but really most game franchises had spin-offs coming out at that time. You know, Pokemon had Pokemon Dash. I'm talking during the noughties, the 2000s, and into the early part of like maybe 2011, 2012, and that's it. There were tons of spin-off games coming out that were usually really good. So of course we got the Mystery Dungeon games, and we got the Pokemon Ranger games. We had, I don't know about their quality, but I remember there being Pokemon Dash and Pokemon Troze, whatever that is. I'm not sure what it is. Of course there was all the mainline games that were coming out around that time. And there was Pokemon Conquest as well, and Battle Revolution, and there's all sorts of things. Pokepark. I think Gen 4 really felt like the ultimate generation of Pokemon. I think 2010, when Heart Gold Soul Silver came out, and or really 2009, I suppose, because that's when it came out in Japan. All that sort of era around then is when Pokemon peaked, in my opinion. Anyway, this is a Kecleon shop. I'll get back to what I was saying in a second, but Kecleon shop has the X-ray specs, which I desperately need. The X-ray specs were $4,000. So I couldn't afford it, but I'll explain what they do in a second. But if you don't have enough money to pay for Kecleon stuff, or you try to run off with his items without paying, he will attempt to kill you, and he is about level 90 something. He's harder than the final boss, much harder than the final boss, harder than most of the post-game dungeons. Bosses, I would presume. So yeah, don't shoplift. Seriously. Anyway, back to more ambient 90s synthy music that I just adore so much and feel super nostalgic for. This song is Amami Airport Reality from Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. Just say Soul Hackers. It's a fantastic soundtrack, fantastic game. I love this game. I think this isn't the most. This isn't my favorite song from the game, but it's the most appropriate for what we're doing. You know, dungeon trekking. My favourite song is Service Counter, and that, it sounds straight out of Phantasy Star Online, which is another soundtrack, which is just super nostalgic. Ambient synth. Alright, here's another Kecleon shop. So yeah, make sure when you walk into these, have enough money to buy the stuff, otherwise you'll be killed. Even if you manage to kill Kecleon, another one will appear and take you down, so yeah, and even if you keep going throughout the dungeon, they'll just keep coming, or something will kick you out of the dungeon, from what I've heard, Anyway, back to what I was talking about earlier with the whole peak of Pokemon. I think, yeah, Heart Gold Soul Silver, really, 2010, just the end of Gen 4, before Gen 5 was coming out. In my opinion, that was the peak of Pokemon, because starting with Gen 5, it really felt personally to me that each game was regressing a little bit, you know. They were obviously going forward. I still love Gen 5 to death, don't get me wrong, I love Gen 5. But a lot of me felt like, oh, well, this isn't as cool as Gen 4 was. was because of all the features that Gen 4 had, and the somewhat open-ended design of the region, and it wasn't so story focused, and it was more about the gameplay and the Pokemon that you found. And the Pokemon were a lot more memorable. I think Gen 4 was one of the best generations, pardon me, in terms of new Pokemon. Granted, that's because a lot of them were just evolutions of previous Pokemon. But even then, I think a lot of the Gen 4 Pokemon were pretty good. And Heart Gold Soul Silver felt like the ultimate Pokemon game. Just because not only it's the remake of Gen 2, so it's remade with Kanto and Johto. All of it's in there. You can also get starters from every region. Obviously, you'll have to trade with Diamond and Pearl if you want, or Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum if you want Sinnoh starters, all sorts of stuff like that. But just Diamond, Pearl, Platinum crossed with Heart Gold, Soul Silver felt like the peak, the ultimate Pokemon game. Also, this song is from Metal Gear Solid 2. It's called Twilight Sniping, and it's during my favourite segment in the game, ironically. And it's a fantastic song. Yeah, my favourite section of the game is actually when you're escorting Emma, if only because, one, she's voiced by Jennifer Hale, which is always a pleasure. She does a fantastic job in the role. 2, I think Emma's a really neat character. 3, that's when the game really starts to, you really feel like the story is getting serious. And Raiden starts to become his own character more so than relying on Snake, sort of, or just relying on being like Snake, is what I mean, really. Anyway, this song's fantastic. But Heart Gold Soul Silver, there was so many things. There was the whole Pokewalker, all of that. It was marketed heavily. There was a lot of marketing towards it. It felt like there were a million different things to do in the game. There's a lot of secrets. There was the whole Battle Frontier that was added into the Johto region. There was, of course, all the Gym Leader rematches. There was fighting Red again. I think you could rematch him even. The Elite Four had rematches. Even the Kanto region, now all the trainers there, they could have Sinnoh or Hoenn Pokemon, which was awesome. There was a whole Game Boy Sounds thing where you could go back to the original soundtrack. There was the bajillion legendaries in the game. And of course all the Pal Park transferring from 3rd gen, and Pokemon walking around behind you. How could I forget about that? That's the best thing Pokemon ever did. Just all sorts of things like that, and it was absolutely the peak of Pokemon for me. And Black and White felt like it lacked in comparison, personally. I do still love Black and White and Black and White 2. But anyway, that's the new base. Yeah, you have a head, as it doesn't matter what Pokemon you are, it will be your head, which is funny and narcissistic, but oh well, we already went over this. All the Wi-Fi battles, all the Wi-Fi connectivity, the trading, the events, the millions of legendary Pokemon from Gen 4. And that's just the mainline games. Of course, all the stuff that you could connect it to. So Battle Revolution, I thought was amazing because I never played Stadium or Stadium 2. But I thought, the whole concept of transferring your own personal team up to be played on the big screen was amazing. And you could fight with them online on the Wii, which is amazing. Obviously, I never played Colosseum or XD or the Stadium games before that point, so that was my first experience with that.